at 6 p.m. Eastern time with a lot of picks for this hour. Today we're going to cover all the football games. We'll have picks from college football for Friday's action. Minnesota, Maryland is one of them. Hawaii, Wyoming, East Carolina, Tulsa. We'll have picks on those, as well as a lot of picks from college and the NFL for this weekend. We'll also touch base a little bit on the NASCAR races later in the show with Jeff Jeter. Of course, Goran will be along, and he'll work along with Chris as we take a look at some of the games here from the Premier League. Let's take a look here at our green room. We'll have Jeff Jeter on today. Of course, we'll get some NASCAR coverage from him. Rodd Zawacky has joined us here, as well as Goran. Goran will cover English Premier Soccer with our co-host Chris for today. Joe Duffy coming in with a nice NFL play for us to open the show. And of course, Brian Bitler will sign in later in the show. So let's go ahead and get things going with my co-hosts. I've got Chris joining me today. Chris, how are things going? And I'd like to get your thoughts here on what we saw last night as the Carolina Panthers really hurt their postseason chances falling to Atlanta.
No, for sure. And I mean, we saw the best from Carolina earlier this season. Now I think we're starting to see a little bit of the worst, followed 3 straight wins up with now 3 straight losses. And, I think we finally saw Todd Gurley figure out when he has to score. I mean, giving him an NFL high 8 touchdowns this season and giving Atlanta the lead, early in the fourth quarter, it just turned out to be the backbreaker. And I think that, the hit that got Charles Harris ejected was kind of the thing that was throwing Carolina off, as they were kind of hanging around as the game was going on into the third quarter. Then you had Bridgewater leave the game. PJ Walker proved to be a capable backup, but I think that was sort of what threw off Carolina's momentum, and they just couldn't really recover as the game finished with an 8-point Falcons win.
Right, and of course, some of the things we're looking at today. Of course, Tony La Russa, the Chicago White Sox. I was interested. Of course, Mitch was off yesterday. I would like to get his thoughts on that. What did I miss his comments on that hire? That must be interesting here because I know he's a big White Sox fan.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something we necessarily talked about, I don't think, and it was, it's a hire that I think Tony La Russa, you kind of figured, well, maybe he's, done with being a manager and, maybe the White Sox are going to look more towards a younger manager. But you know what? It's been there, done that with Tony La Russa. He's, pardon my language, he's a bit of a hard ass. And I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be able to reel some of these younger guys in and, get the most out of the fruits of the White Sox labor in terms of all those trades they made in the past seasons. And, this could be a White Sox team that if they weren't a team to watch for much of this season, definitely for the next few years to come as well.
Yeah, something we talked about before the show is Mike D'Antoni as assistant for Steve Nash over at Brooklyn. That might be a team to look at. I'm really looking forward to the start of the NBA season, whether it's in mid-January or December or somewhere in between. Of course, Golden State will return to action, but D'Antoni, the Nets, it makes things a little intriguing over there.
Well, because, D'Antoni already has a history with Steve Nash from his time in Phoenix, and this is not just me plugging a fellow Canadian, but Steve Nash is one of the best basketball minds, that I've ever seen. And, he's definitely a coach. He was someone that came out of left field when it was announced he was going to take over the Brooklyn job. But to me, it makes all the sense in the world. And, you've already got, past point guards that have taken over jobs. You've had Mark Jackson, Jason Kidd, just to name a couple. And, I think Steve Nash is going to be next in line in that lineage of, game managers that we've seen on the court that are taking over head coaching jobs. And, I think D'Antoni's a nice addition to that staff with his obvious experience. And, the 8 seconds or less offense isn't necessarily someone that we're going to be able to see under Steve Nash, but, he brings a great mind to that staff.
Yeah, he certainly does. I'm looking forward to the start of the NBA season. All right, guys, this is the drive-through. A lot of picks coming up out of NFL, college football. I know in the chat room you're looking for that Hawaii pick. We'll have that. The Minnesota pick will have that. East Carolina, Tulsa will have that for the show, and a lot more from the weekend's NFL and college football. All right, let's get things started now. And welcome to the show, Joe Duffy. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. Joe, how are things going? I want to really get your input on this because you're a database guy, and we hear a lot of the anti-analytics people talking about this World Series with Snell being pulled. I'd like to get your thoughts on that situation.
It's very, very funny, Tony T, that you would say that, because that's exactly was my thought. I'm like, I'm such a huge analytics guy, and sometimes I find myself in my handicapping. I'm like, you can't be totally obsessed with analytics, and sometimes I have to force myself not to. And in that situation, I'm thinking like, Snell is unhittable. How can you possibly take him out? But would there have been so much analytics that could have possibly talked me out of it? Because I found over the years, more times than not, when my kind of organic instincts say side A, but my analytics are screaming side B generally does cover. So I was thinking, if I were in an analogous situation there, that even though everything would say, look, the eye test, Snell is unhittable, how the heck can you take him out of the game? Would I have somehow been blinded by the analytics? And I suppose I would have had to have known every single analytics that went into that bizarre decision. But yeah, every now and then when you're a manager, you have this eye test. There was no logical reason. I mean, heck, I'm a Phillies fan. I'll never forget years ago when Roy or it was not Halladay, but the Phillies took out Aaron Nola. I'm sorry, Aaron Nola was taken out of an opening day game, and I was there. I took my son there against the Braves, and Nola was taken out of the game, and my son and I were, what the heck is going on? And I even had to text a friend. Did they say on TV? And they apparently, all they said in TV was that it was analytics, and that's what was said after the game. And, Gabe Kapler wound up getting fired after that year. But, yeah, sometimes you just got to go with that eye test.
Yeah, and Chris, looking at that, I thought to myself, well, yeah, I understand pitch counts and why you take them out. You're trying to preserve the arm for the entire season. But this was Snell's last game of the year. He wasn't going to pitch again this year, Chris.
No, and for sure, it's what we always go back to is that, analytics help us in situations like this, when we're handicapping and stuff, and, we're big on numbers, and it's definitely something that we have to look at. But like Joe said, there's the eye test, there's the human element that's at play here. He's still a professional athlete. He was having a phenomenal game. He was pitching fantastic. We talked about it right after that game. He was scheduled to face, the next three guys up were the top of that Dodgers order. And in that game, up to that point, they were 0 for 6, and Snell had struck out all 6 batters. So again, that's a decision that we're going to be questioning Kevin Cash on through the rest of the offseason, I think, and maybe even into next year. And, he's even gone on record saying, it was a right decision. I felt at the time. It hurts because it played out to be the wrong decision. But at the end of the day, people don't care about your feelings and whether you feel that it was the wrong decision or not. The fact is it was the wrong decision, and, he's going to have to live with it.
All right, Joe, I'll give you the last word on this topic.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about Tony La Russa's signing. I think, if anything, that's kind of intriguing as it applies to analytics, because on one hand, you're going to be like, one of the oldest managers to manage the game, old school guy. He's probably going to be anti-analytics. But then again, remember, Tony came up with that thing with Pujols where he would bat him third and then bat the pitcher eighth, because the theory was, well, he can bat the first. You're guaranteed that his best hitter would bat the first inning of every game, but then he becomes the cleanup hitter after that, because the ninth hitter was kind of like a leadoff hitter, and that was kind of one of the earlier analytic moves. So it will be interesting to see how La Russa fits into this. You might think that he'll be an old school guy, but still, that whole batting the pitcher eighth, that was based on analytics.
No doubt. All right, here on the drive-through here, joined with Joe Duffy, Chris Ruffolo, my co-host. Joe's going to take a look at an NFL game. This great one here from the NFC West has the 49ers at the Seahawks. Seahawks favorite here, 3, coming down from an opener of 5, total 53. We've seen San Francisco play some really good D the last couple of games, Joe.
That they definitely have. And, those people that have been with me even before we had these interwebs, you're probably familiar with my bubble burst theory. And basically, it's something that crosses sports, but there are certain situations where teams coming off their first loss of the year are usually pretty good go against plays. And the general rule of thumb is, the higher they are, the harder they fall. And in the case of Seattle, last week, of course, they were undefeated. They blew a 27-14 lead to Arizona. Teams off of their first loss in which they blew a lead of more than a touchdown are a go against the next week of 9-2. Now, it's very rare because I do have a minimum number of wins. I think it was a minimum of 4 wins, but this basically says they're in a bubble burst situation. And same thing, a much larger bubble burst angle that says go against teams off of their first loss of the year under specific circumstances, 67, 39, and 4. Road underdogs of 3 or more who have been much better on the road than they are at home are 129 and 89. Now, I know a lot of people would say, wait a minute, Joe Duffy, I thought you were Mr. Anti-splits. Yeah, a lot of my angles are anti-splits, but this one is more intuitive than counterintuitive. It does say that a team that's still getting a decent number of points that has been very good on the road this year is a good play. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not surprised that he's 11-3 as an underdog. Again, I'm one of these guys that has always valued possession and efficiency, and Garoppolo, he's not, a big fantasy football quarterback, but he does protect the ball. He can nickel and dime you to death. I flat out feel he is one of the most underrated and underappreciated quarterbacks in the league. That's why he has done so well as an underdog, because people like to fade him because they think he's overrated. He's not a very good quarterback. I think that is wrong. So it's not surprising to me that he continues to be a good play as an underdog. Now, as far as injuries, both of these teams are banged up. Both of these teams have some significant injuries, but Seattle has 9 guys who could possibly miss. I don't expect all 9 guys to miss, but they're going to have some walking wounded and some guys that are going to be missed. It looks like Jamal Adams, their safety, he's doubtful. It'll be very surprising if he does play. And their top 3 rushers all missed a bunch of practice this week, so they are really banged up at the running back position. Obviously, I'm not happy with the fact that this game opened up at 5 and now it's down to 3, but still, despite that, I do like San Francisco plus the points.
All right, Joe Duffy says go ahead and take the 49ers plus the points against Seattle Seahawks. Chris, Joe made some good points here about Garoppolo. We're seeing him play well, and he's healthy, and that's one thing you got to keep an eye on with this Garoppolo is his health.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I could tell you firsthand, him being in the New England system, I was hoping that Jimmy G was always going to be the next guy to take over for Tom Brady, but then we shipped him out. But that's besides the point. And, you look at what's happened with him this season. I mean, it's just you always kind of have to hold your breath whenever you kind of see him get, thrown to the ground or take a hit out of bounds. But when he's healthy and when he, has all of his targets, he is a dangerous quarterback, especially when you have a guy like George Kittle that you can use as your safety valve. And when you have, backs that can come out of the backfield like a Jerick McKinnon, like a Raheem Mostert, and your receivers like Deebo Samuel. And that defense has also been able to, get them to stay off on the field, as much as possible, forcing a lot of 3 and outs. As far as this game goes, I mean, Seattle was definitely a solid, cover team to start the year. The problem is their last 5 games, their first 3 were all covers, but by an average of 2 points, and now they've had back-to-back, failed covers. So, in the last 5 games, they've been making everyone sweat if you picked Seattle, and then the last couple times they haven't done it for you. And then you look at the head-to-head, 4 of the last 7 meetings have been decided by 3 points. So I can definitely, be on the same side as Joe in this one. This is going to be a tight game throughout, and a divisional battle with so much at stake, especially for San Francisco, who I think is at the bottom of the division right now. I think all their chips are in this one.
Yeah, they're 4-3 this season. Of course, I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs. But they added extra team into the playoffs this season, so that's something to keep an eye on. But Joe, looking at some of the parameters in the databases, well, obviously we're looking here at Seattle's defense. We're looking at their offense. How do you weigh some of these variables in your database when you're looking at team versus team?
Well, as far as the defense and offensive statistics, yes, I definitely have a lot of angles that are based on how many points a team gives up. A few of the angles are based on yards per play, both on offense and on defense. But, like I said, this is one of those things that beyond my database, I like the game organically. Of course, I liked it better when it was 5 than it was 3, but I do think that, San Francisco, like I said, Garoppolo against a quality team, I think is always a very good bet, because I do think that he is underrated. And again, we talked about the Seattle injuries. I don't think that Seattle's not that San Fran's going to be at 100% full strength, but then again, this deep into the season, how many teams are going to be at full strength. But I think also because of the injuries as well. But yeah, virtually, that's knock on wood. Just about any single parameter you can test in the database. And like I said, one of the ones that I've started to use even more this year is the delta points scored, the delta points allowed, which is basically how many points the odds makers expected a team to score the previous week or for the season. That's how we measure overrated and underrated defenses, essentially. So yeah, you can enter virtually any parameter into the database. The SQL language, some people out there are watching, they know one of the programs I use, but the SQL language is just fantastic.
Yeah, and then one more here on the database here. How do you factor in here third down conversions in red zone? You hear that a lot.
Yeah. You did there. That is another thing that can be factored in. I must admit, I haven't used that many of those systems, but similar to that, the yards per point statistic, which measures how teams, the lower yards per point on offense, they're more efficient. The higher yards per point is that it's more of on defense, more of a kind of bend, don't break defense. But I do find out that, again, that regression to the mean, teams that have very good yards per point statistics are usually the ones that have the downside because they're getting points, and that usually the teams that have bad yards per point, it means they're moving the ball, they're not converting them into points, and they're usually the ones that have the higher upside. And the same thing on defense. Those bend but don't break defenses that can be measured by the yards per point on defense, usually they're the ones that are going to break. They're the ones that have the more overrated defenses.
All right, that's Joe Duffy. You can find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Joe, as we head into a weekend of a lot of action, NFL, college football, I want you to let everybody know what you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium.
Yeah, knock on wood. Like I said, all these years in the business, it was appropriate that 2020 was one of my ugliest starts, but we have more than turned it around. Heck, I even had the under last night. The way this year was going, I thought I marked it up as a loser at halftime, but somehow those 12 points scored in the second half, I got the under, so I'm in a nice groove finally in both college and the NFL. Do have the college football total for the late game tomorrow. I got 7 winners already up at Pick Dogs. It includes my SEC East game of the year and my AAC game of the year. We've had a really nice run with what I call them the name plays, game of the year plays in NFL. Going to complete them very soon. We got a big NFL weekend. More so, it looks like with totals, but we do have by the way, I'm going to have a side on what is arguably the marquee game, the Pittsburgh-Baltimore. We'll have a side on that at Pick Dogs as well.
All right, guys, check out Joe Duffy over at Pig Dogs Premium. Pick up one of those long-term packages. He has a 7-day and 30-day all-sports pass you can pick up. Get all his NFL and college football for a month over at Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Joe, as always, great having you on the show. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll talk and visit with you next week.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, our buddy Joe Duffy here on the drive through. Chris, I want to ask you a question. Analytics seems to be more on your end of your generation, I must say, because some of the old school handicappers more into the organic. Maybe they looked at it a little bit, but now we're into analytics. How much of that do you factor in your own personal handicapping?
I try to factor in a little bit because at the end of the day, it's still a game that has a law of averages. You still have teams that have, average points per game and, yardage and, field goal percentage when you're talking about basketball. You also have advanced analytics. I don't delve too far into when we're talking about hockey and Corsi and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, it's still, there's also, we talked about it, the eye test. You have to actually watch a lot of the games to kind of get, vibes for how these teams play and to see a lot of their strengths and weaknesses and to see how other teams' strengths and weaknesses go against those other teams' strengths and weaknesses. So, it's a combination of everything for me, numbers / analytics, as well as actually sitting down, taking the time to watch the teams in action.
Yeah, watching him in action now, it's never been easier with these streaming and, of course, these replays. A lot of these games you can run. I've got the NFL package, so I can watch any game on demand, even watch the 30-minute version and to watch every play of every game, which I usually do throughout early in the week. So there's a lot of tools out there, the eye test, matching the analytics, matching the stats. That helps. Of course, the injury report that comes out on Friday is also a great help in your handicapping. All right.
No, for sure. And I
What?
mean, I was going to say as well. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. You can look online now and find, or even in your local markets, find the game that's been condensed into 30 minutes and sort of just see, the big plays and the turning points and kind of understand, where these teams usually fall apart. Like, for example, if you've seen a lot of these Atlanta games, they start to fall apart in the fourth quarter. Or you see, where teams have big plays. If you notice that one team's game, all the big plays against them are happening through the air. It's a team that struggles against the pass. It's stuff that even those condensed games are full of information if you watch and sort of delve into them deep enough.
Absolutely. Of course, the NFL, they just strip everything out but the play, so you can actually watch every play. So that helps too in that 30-minute replay of the game. All right, continue on here on the drive-through. A lot of picks coming up. We're going to cover one of the picks on the right now for Friday night, East Carolina and Tulsa. We'll take a look at the current line here with Tulsa about 16.5 to 17, total 59.5. Chris, Tulsa, I believe this is their first home game. They've been bad luck. It's not been their fault with these COVID cancellations. So they're in action. They've defended well, playing a lot better than people thought coming into the season.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing for me in this one is East Carolina, they have their fair share of offense that they've been able to put up this season. I just worry that it may not be enough against a Tulsa team that, is starting to pick it up offensively, but that's been relying on their defense for much of the season. And, Holton Ahlers is going to get back into the game. He missed the last game against Temple Navy, excuse me. And, I still think that at 59.5, I still feel this is a bit like a tick too high. I think you see Tulsa get into the 30s, and I think we see East Carolina linger around, in low to mid 20s. Is it going to be a tough one to call in terms of a side? Because I think 17 could even feel right on. I even had this as a 38-21 game for Tulsa, so it's finishing right around 17. But as far as the total goes, I like the under 59.5.
All right, under 59.5. I kind of lean toward the side here, looking at laying the points here with the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. All right, continue here on the drive-through, joined by Chris Ruffolo. Now it's time for Chris's free pick for today, and he's going to go into the NFL. And we got a game between the Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. Bengals at home, Tennessee at home, laying 7 right now. The total sits here at 51. Weather a concern this week in the NFL. We've seen the total drop about 3.5 points from the opener, Chris.
Yeah, and it's for good reason, because I think this is going to kind of be one of those muck around games. But the Titans, even for a team that's just coming off their first loss of the season, 5-1, they've still been one of the more frustrating teams to bet on, because they've won 5 of 6, like I just said, but they've only covered 2 of them, and one of those they needed a big comeback to force overtime. And now a week after losing their first game, they're in what I think is a trap spot against Cincinnati. The Bengals late touchdown away from almost pulling off the upset against the Browns last week as a home dog, and they're still 8-2-2 against the spread as a dog in their last 12. And the Bengals are starting to figure it out in terms of the passing game. We're seeing Joe Burrow start to figure it out, and I think Tennessee's the better team, but I think both teams are going to put some points on the board. I think in their last 9 games as a dog, you have the Bengals at 7-0-2 against the spread in their last 9, and when getting 7 points or less. So when they're not getting these heavy lines, Cincinnati's a team to watch, and they're a team that's going to compete. So I think the Bengals, they have a habit of keeping this every game close, and I think this could be another one. So I'm going to take Cincinnati and the points in this one.
Yeah, you like Cincinnati points. I kind of like with you a lot of points being scored. I like the over in this one. The only thing here, I'm a little concerned here with the Cincinnati side is the fact that Tennessee's been able to exploit the weaker defenses on their schedule, putting up 42 on the Bills and Texans, 33 on the Jaguars. But again, if you're putting up that many points, the Bengals have the opportunity to match those scores with Burrow, and especially with the way they throw. And we've seen Tennessee's defense slip up as well.
No, for sure. I mean, it hasn't resulted in losses, but they've been in their fair share of back and forth games. Just look at that game against Pittsburgh last week. So, I just think that as much as Joe Burrow is getting thrown around, and as much as he's still a rookie, he's still been able to have this offense and even the defense get this team together and at least compete. I mean, this is still, Zach Taylor led this team to only 2 wins last season. And this is a team that we're looking at this year that you could probably argue looks like a 500 team, maybe 500 at best, but they're still competing and playing some of the tougher teams in the division and hanging with them. They just went blow for blow with a Cleveland team that's 5-2 and probably headed for the playoffs with or without that extra playoff spot this season. And they also went toe to toe with them earlier in the year as well. I think the only real beatdown we've seen from Cleveland was that game against Pittsburgh. So Cleveland no slouch by any means, and I think Cincinnati can rise to the occasion. I think Tennessee's in a bit of a trap spot here. They could be looking past the Bengals. I think this is a ripe spot to take some points and take a shot with the dog here.
All right, Chris Ruffolo says go ahead and take the Bengals plus 5.5 against the Tennessee Titans. All right, as we hit the bottom of the hour, Chris, why don't you let everybody know what you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
So we have a 3-pack covering all the college football tonight, but it's out there for $29.95. I think we're going to go on a 3-0 night tonight, especially with the big college football card tomorrow. I'm going to have my college football plays for tomorrow loaded up later this evening. I'm going to have a lunch rush pack for the afternoon games, as well as the midday package and a late package as well. And then I'm also going to have a smorgasbord where you're going to be able to get basically all my plays in one spot for one price. And we're going to put some cash in your pocket tomorrow heading into Sunday. So don't miss out on those, especially take advantage of those longer term passes, because for just a few bucks more, you're going to get a weekend's worth of coverage, if not longer term. So definitely hop on one of those.
Exactly. That's what Chris is saying. You can take advantage of those long-term passes. Right now, Chris has a 7-day, 30-day all sports pass now available over at Pig Dogs Premium. You get all of Chris's plays that he releases on the site. That would be NFL, college football. He also dabbles into Premier Soccer, which we'll cover later in the show. So take advantage right now of that offer. And maybe even the start of college basketball in that 30 days, Chris, is that we may be looking at college basketball on the 25th of November.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's one of my favorite places to make some money is college basketball, and we're gonna even in a weird year, this is where I think we're gonna hit the books the hardest. So definitely get on one of those 30-day passes, and we'll get you started on college basketball, right?
Absolutely. Bottom of the hour, guys. Still a lot more picks coming. We got 2 college football picks coming up for today. For tonight's action, we'll go ahead and get one for you right now. As Hawaii will be on the road facing Wyoming. And as we take a look at the line here, Hawaii is anywhere between a 1 and a 2-point favorite. Total sits here at 60 points. I know one thing about Hawaii. They stayed in the mainline. They actually practiced in Denver to get used to the elevation, because we know Wyoming's a high elevation school there where they play. How do you see this one in the Mountain West?
Yeah, staying in Colorado is definitely going to help out. Hawaii coming into this one, it's still going to be 42 degrees at game time, though, and even with some preparation for Hawaii, I still just think this Warriors team is not going to be a team that's going to like to play in cold weather. I know they're used to playing it from them being in the Mountain West, but I just think tonight practicing and having a game at full speed, something completely different, and I just think that Wyoming is going to bounce back from that poor performance against Nevada last week where they lost as a road favorite. I mean, granted, I was on the right side. I had Nevada in that one. I didn't think Wyoming should have been favored, but I think, the defense steps up here at home. I think the offense bounces back. And, I think we see Wyoming put up a solid performance and get the job done. So I'm leaning towards the Cowboys at home in this one.
Corey said Todd Graham, the coach from Hawaii, wasn't as much of a defensive mind when he was there with Arizona State. But any concern here with the Wyoming? Of course, losing. They lost their quarterback, Sean Chambers, in that first quarter last week against in that loss to Nevada. So they're going with that freshman at quarterback. Any concern there?
Oh, there's always going to be concern when you lose your senior leader, especially at quarterback, like they lost with Sean Chambers, and obviously we wish him a speedy recovery. But we're seeing that in other programs, in bigger names, namely LSU, just off the top of my head, that a freshman can succeed. They didn't get the spot, especially as a second string quarterback for a Division I program, by fluke. I mean, this is a guy that can go. And I mean, Hawaii, yes, they have a defensive-minded head coach, like you said, but I still think that he can help Wyoming get the job in here. And Wyoming also, a very good ground offense, and I think Wyoming has a really good shot here, even with a freshman quarterback, because he did have a lot of experience after Chambers went down in that game. So I'm still gonna be on Wyoming here even with a freshman quarterback under center.
Yeah, like we talked about a few days ago, you don't worry about those backups so much. They've been in the program sometimes. Sometimes they redshirt, so they spend an entire season with the team, practice, get know I don't call it a playbook in college football. I call it an instruction manual, but they get used to the plays that they play there, so it's not that difficult for them. So that's I'm with you there. All right, continue here on the drive-through. A lot more picks coming up. Let's go ahead and bring in our guy Rodd Zawacky. Hear him on the morning show with Mitch. Every morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Matter of fact, you want to check them out Saturday and Sundays because that show is packed with information with all the games starting. Rodd, how are you doing this afternoon, evening?
Doing not too bad, not too bad. We were that close to hitting our prop with Ridley last night. He was wide open there for the touchdown, and he just didn't see him. He threw it to Julio instead, covered by 5 guys.
Yeah. That's usually what happens. These guys are trying to hit their star receiver, and sometimes it's when these quarterbacks, I know what they're going through. When they have their star receiver, they have so much pressure on them to get them the ball because they feel like they've let it down. It's not the receiver not getting open. No one ever talks about that. It's always the quarterback not getting the receiver the ball.
Oh, that's exactly what it was. The receiver was wide open. He did his job. I actually thought they were running him over there to clean things out, have Julio run in, clean things out, and it looked like it was going to work. And then they threw it to Julio, and I was like, "What was that play?" He's wide open running this way towards the end zone. Nobody even near him.
No, absolutely.
That probably would have set the over in motion in that game because that would have been a different story right there.
That might have been.
I think we would have hit the over.
Yep, that could have come into play there. All right, Rodd, boy, you are coming into one of the big matchups. I like this game a lot here. On ESPN, early start. Memphis at Cincinnati. These AAC contests are fantastic this year. Cincinnati here favored by 6.5, total about 57 to 56.5. We know Memphis, one of those all offense, struggle on defense type of teams, whereas Cincinnati, pretty good stopper on defense. They got they got experience at quarterback, but Memphis can put points up. How do you see this one?
The way I see this one is you definitely got this Memphis team here who's got a great offense. Ranked 6th in total yards, 9th in passing, 23rd in rushing. Very good offense versus this Cincinnati defense who's just been dynamite all year. But for what as I dig through these numbers, for me, the one weakness in Cincinnati is their rush game. If you can call it a weakness, because they'll still slow you down, and holding teams to 12.5 points a game is what I'm seeing so far in their first 6 games. And on Memphis side, you've got Brady White, who's been Mr. Consistent all year, hitting 64% of his passes, throwing for over 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And Memphis's D, I think the key to this is their rush defense is not horrible. So if they can slow down the Cincinnati run game, I think they have a good chance to cover. I don't know if they win this outright to snap Cincinnati's whole winning streak, but I think they have a really good shot at getting the cover here. 4-1 ATS. As an underdog. And ATS, the last 6 was 2. So I think we're in for a real battle. I think the points in my pocket and what could be real close. And if the big thing, if Cincinnati's been getting teams to turn the ball over, if Memphis doesn't turn the ball over, I think they're right there in this game. Take the 6.5 points.
Yeah, that definitely should read plus 6.5. Plus 6.5 with Memphis against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a ranked team, 7th in the nation. One of those teams from the mid majors trying to get into a New Year's Day bowl game. Chris, this is one of the more interesting matchups here with this Memphis Cincinnati. We see a total creeping down a little bit to 56.5. How do you see this one between these two teams?
Well, I will say this: Rod and I have been working together for about a year, and we haven't been shy in terms of games that we don't necessarily agree on. We don't hold back going back and forth with each other on this, and I think this might be one of those games, and for good reason, because it's one of the games of the day. My main concern with Memphis is that Cincinnati has done a good job, shutting down the offensive teams in the AAC. Like, you look at what they did against SMU last week, ran for over 300 yards, and Rob makes a great point that that's going to be the key for Memphis, is that the rushing defense, which is the main attraction for this Memphis defense, it's going to have to be really good to stop that Bearcats attack. The problem I'm seeing is that Memphis, they're also allowing 33 points a game, and Cincinnati's scoring 37, Memphis is scoring 38, so the offenses are almost going to cancel each other out in terms of putting points on the board. Memphis is the more offensive team and much more offensive in terms of yardage production, but I see Cincinnati putting points on the board, and a lot of that has to do with, like Rod said, mentioned the turnover battle. Winning the turnover battle and getting better field position is a big part of Cincinnati's offense, and I think that's going to be the key here. If they can force Brady White into making mistakes, or even the running backs into fumbling the ball, it's going to play out into Cincinnati's favor. So I'm leaning towards the Bearcats in this one, but again, that number of 6.5 seems right on. It's either going to be I think a 7 to 10 point Cincinnati win to keep the winning streak alive, or it's going to be an outright Memphis victory. So I'm leaning towards Cincinnati at this point, but again, it's a tough one to call, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one to call, especially when you look at that defensive line there. The amount of yards allowed here by Memphis. That's the one concern. Of course, can Cincinnati, of course, is good defense they're playing. They're playing a team here with a pretty good passing team here. That's something that we want to look at. How is Cincinnati going to defend this passing, especially with that experienced quarterback there, Rod, for Memphis?
Well, yeah, exactly, right. That's what I'm looking at. Cincinnati ranks 22nd against the pass, so they do not too bad. But for me, if they can get the Memphis can get their run game going, with the leading rusher in the AAC, I think they got a really good shot.
All right, Rodd Zawacky says
and that'll open up the passing game because Cincinnati will sell out to try to stop the run with the leader of in the AAC rushing, who's averaging 105 yards rushing per game, Rodriguez Clark.
Yep, and of course, if you watch Cincinnati, they got those linebackers. They like to really get right close to that line of scrimmage there, and if you can actually you get single coverage, maybe you can make, especially with that experienced quarterback for Memphis, maybe they can sprout some big plays. All right. Rod, as we hit the weekend here, we're approaching the top of the hour. Why don't you let everybody know what you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
Right now, I've got for tonight's 3 college football games. Trying to keep my streak going of Friday, Steak Friday. The last 2 Steak Fridays went 3-0 and 3-0. So we're 6-0 in the last 2 Fridays here. Trying to keep that streak going and make it 9-0. Be sure to jump on that. Or I've got the massive weekend cruise. Grab a 3-day pass. Cover you for all weekend. Get you Steak Friday tonight. All the college football plays tomorrow. And all my NFL on Sunday. We're going to have a massive weekend. Be sure to jump aboard.
That's all right, guys. Jump on board right now. Rodd Zawacky, why don't you pick up one of those 30-day all sports pass? Get all plays from Rodd Zawacky over at Pig Dogs Premium. There's NFL, there's college football. I'm sure we'll sprinkle in some college basketball when it starts on November 25th, as we're making the countdown to daily sports here from the basketball course. College basketball coming up in less than a month away. So check them out over at Pig Dogs Premium. And, of course, we'll be looking, Rod, for your play at the end of the show. Check out the Birdcage as we recap the show. And, of course, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll listen to you tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the morning show.
Thanks for being here. Everybody have themselves a good night. And, yeah, I got a soccer Saturday Birdcage for tomorrow at the end of the show.
All right, guys, but look for that. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, Rodd Zawacky here on the drive-through as we continue on the show with Chris, my co-host for today. And we want to take a look here at this Vikings and Packers game going off Sunday afternoon. The Green Bay favored here by 6. Total sits here at 50 points. And In that first meeting, you could tell right away Minnesota was in trouble because that young defense couldn't put any pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He was able to pick them apart. 43-24 win behind 522 yards. This is the rematch here with the Packers' favorite, just about less than a touchdown.
No, for sure. I mean, Green Bay. I had them last week to pick apart Houston. That's exactly how it happened. And Green Bay went to 5-1 against the spread, which includes that win that you talked about, Tony. And Green Bay's covered against 4 of the last 5 against the Vikings. But the problem is they haven't been a 6-point favorite against the Vikings in over 5 years. And the Vikings 3-1 against the spread as an underdog this season. I think we're hoping to get Dalvin Cook back from Minnesota in this one, and I think if Vikings don't fall behind early, I think we can get the running game going, and Minnesota can keep this one close. So I'm leaning towards Minnesota and the points in this one.
All right, Chris Ruffolo says go ahead and look at the points, the underdog here in this one. All right, continue here on the drive-thru, guys. A lot of picks coming up. We're going to cover that Minnesota and Maryland game from college football. That's going to kick off tonight. And let's go ahead and get Brian Bitler on the show right now. Brian, how are things going? We look up at the leaderboards, and you're still sitting pretty there from college football.
It's always a nice view from the top, guys. I love my college football, and off of 5-2 Saturday, I'm ready to just go right through the weekend with a huge Saturday college card.
Absolutely. A huge college card, no doubt about that. Brian, as you're going to be looking at this one here between Maryland and Minnesota, let's take a look at the current line. This line has been fluctuating a little bit because Minnesota had opened up as a 20-point favorite, but that one now is down to 18.5, and we have a total here of 60.5. Minnesota looking to recover after that loss against Michigan, but man, Maryland just looked terrible against Northwestern. Northwestern was a losing team last year with a lot of their players back. They got pounded. How do you see this one?
Well, this is my least favorite game on the card, and to be honest, I've been a flip-flopper on this game at the start of the week. I liked Minnesota. The other day, I went to Maryland, and now early this morning, I'm back on Minnesota. It's just hard for me to get away with how bad Maryland is. Yeah, they are a Big Ten team, and against a team like South Alabama, they would absolutely destroy them. But as far as the Big Ten goes, they're pretty much the bottom of the barrel. And Minnesota lost an embarrassing loss at home to Michigan. And normally I wouldn't lay close to 3 touchdowns on the road, but I think they're in a surly mood, and Maryland is just that bad. And I really think they take it to them and easily win this game by close to 4 touchdowns.
All right, Brian Bitler saying this is a blowout game here. Go ahead and lay the points here with Minnesota against Maryland. Chris, how do you see this one? It's Golden Gophers looking to recover after that loss, but when you look at Maryland's offense, there's 207 yards gained on Northwestern, 537 yards allowed.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Maryland might rival Kansas as the worst team in college football this season. We're going to have to wait a few more games to see how that plays out for the Terrapins, but you look at how Maryland finished last year. They lost 7 straight games to finish the year, average margin of defeat of 30.6 points per game, and they just looked as bad as they did last year in that first game against Northwestern. And Minnesota averaged 34 points per game last year. They've got Tanner Morgan back. They've got Rashad Bateman back. And I just think that I'm worried that maybe PJ Fleck, takes it a little bit easy near the end of the game if Minnesota gets up big and allows Maryland to have the back door open. But I'm with Brian on this one. I think Minnesota wins this game handily. I can see them winning it something like 38-7 or something along those lines. But I definitely think it's a Golden Gopher blowout in this one.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that one, Brian. When you look at Minnesota, they are an experienced offensive line, 8 starters back on offense. What did you take from that Michigan game? You think Michigan's for real?
I definitely think Michigan's for real. It was one of my late ads last week. I added Michigan and San Jose State. I just like the way that line was at as we got closer to kickoff. And plus, this is a big year for Jim Harbaugh, and these are the games he must have if they want to make a impact in the Big Ten. Michigan.
All right, I like the way he said that. I had that game, and then San Jose State. What did you see in San Jose State, Brian?
Honestly, I couldn't figure out why everybody, not everybody, but a huge amount of the public was in love with this Air Force team on the road. And, San Jose State, they're no world beaters. But when you're getting 7.5 points at home, I even would have taken that at 7. It's hard to pass it up. And whenever I see the public in love with a team and the line not really moving too much, I kind of take a chance on the other side there.
All right, it's Brian Bitler here joining us on the drive-thru. You see him over at Pig Dogs Premium, ranked number 2 from college football. So we need to find out what you have going on this weekend. It's going to be a lot of football over at Pig Dogs Premium.
Yeah, you guys got to bear with me for a second. I got 2 premium plays tonight at pickdogs.com you can pick up. I really love these games. But even better, my Trick or Treat special for $400. You can get the rest of my college football picks the rest of the year. That includes bowl games if we have the bowl games. So an excellent deal. But if you're just looking to play on Saturday, all 7 of my plays for $100 over at pickdogs.com. Last week, 5-2. I'm expecting at least a 5-2 day.
All right, that's Brian Bitler over at Pig Dogs Premium. You see him. He's ranked number 2 college football, over 1,000 units of profit. So good time to pick up one of his 38 all sports passes over at Pig Dogs Premium. That's the best value. Of course, right now we're going to start seeing the MAC and Pac-12 into action. So a lot more midweek games. So you want to get on a long-term package here. Get his 38 sports pass right now at Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Brian, as always, it's great having you on our show today. Have yourself a great week, and we got you back on Monday.
I'll be looking forward to coming back Monday. Maybe the other half of the Bash Brothers, Joe Diabico, maybe he'll be back on Monday. But if not, I got my 2 close personal friends, Tony and Chris here. They're going to guide me through it, and we'll have some fun.
Absolutely. We do expect Joe back. His all his upgraded equipment back here on Monday. All right. Thanks, Brian. We'll talk to you then. All right. We'll continue here on the drive-thru, joined by Chris Ruffolo. Still a lot more picks coming up. We're going to take a look at this one here from the NFL. It's the Chargers and the Broncos. And this one opened up at Pick'em, Chris, and this one seems to move it to the Chargers here. -3, total sits at 44.5. I think some people didn't like the way the Broncos looked in their last game, but the Chargers, this is a team that was on a losing streak until last week against the Jaguars, and even then it was still tied late in that third quarter against the Jags at 29 apiece.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you that the Denver Broncos aren't a team that I like much of anything either. Even with Drew Lock in charge in that offense, something just feels off about this team. And I mean, the defense isn't where we need it to be for Denver to really be viewed as a viable option in the underdog role. And the Chargers, for whatever reason, even with a 2-4 record, they're still they're the best cover team in the NFL this season at 5-1. And I just like the way that Justin Herbert's been playing. Unfortunately, I think we need a little bit of a better coach than Anthony Lynn leading that team. Mitch and I have discussed that, but I definitely think that the Chargers are playing really well right now. They're playing above. They're playing better than a 2-4 team. I'll put it that way, and I think they're on board for another cover here, even though the Broncos aren't far behind at 4-2. I just think the Chargers are the better play here, laying only 3 points even on the road and the altitude. I like LA here.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue that one. Looking at the Chargers, Chris Ruffolo on that one. All right, continue here on the drive-thru. Still more picks coming up. We're going to go ahead and welcome to the show our man Jeff Jeter. We've got a couple of races from NASCAR we want to talk about. This, of course, the Xfinity will be going off. The Xfinity race will be going off on Saturday. We also have the Winston Cup race going off on Sunday. So let's welcome in Jeff Jeter. Jeff, how are things going, and how's your? We're winding down the season in NASCAR.
Yes, we are.
I always do that.
Going to college basketball season, so just getting ready. It's a good transition with football right in the mix of everything. So ready to roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, ready to roll. We've got the Xfinity race coming up on Saturday. Why don't you give us a little preview of that one?
Yeah, this is the first time the Xfinity Series is, or this will be the first time I've gone back to Martinsville since 2006. So a lot of these guys have not run in an Xfinity car at Martinsville in their careers. However, they have, most of them running either a Cup car or in a Truck Series in a Truck Series event. So not too much worried about that. But there's some guys that have a ton more experience than some of the other guys out there as far as Saturday goes. This could be interesting.
Yeah, and of course, once you know the viewers about the Martinsville track, of course, we watched NASCAR the last 3 weeks. We've seen a lot of a lot of different track surfaces out here. So we're going to see about a half-mile track. It's kind of unique in its turns. Why don't you let the viewers know about what to expect there and the strategy in this on this course?
Yeah, and Martinsville's the smallest track on the circuit. It's basically in the shape of a paperclip. So you've got two long straightaways at 800 feet and then basically two U-turns. So it's in the shape of a paperclip. It's very close quarters racing. And, especially with the Xfinity race as well as the Truck Series race tonight, these are shorter races. And, the Xfinity race tomorrow's only going to be 250 laps. So, there's no room for mistake whatsoever. So, it's really important not to have any mistakes on pit road and et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, that's right, because this is a short track. You get that pit better be fast.
Well, the pit stop better be fast, and you better not lose that track position because Martinsville's a very tough place to pass. I mean, if your car's not really hooked up, there's just nowhere to go. It's such a small racetrack for such a so many trucks or cars on the racetrack at a time.
All right, you're going to give us a play from the Xfinity race Saturday, and then we'll get the Cup Series on Sunday. First, why don't you give us your matchup here for Saturday's race? Yeah,
Saturday I'm looking at Jeb Burton at minus 115 over Michael Annett here at Martinsville. This is Jeb Burton's home track. Knows that Ward Burton is on the Cup Series. Jeb Burton's got 8 truck races under his belt here, in his time in NASCAR. And within those 8 truck races, he's got 3 top 10s and two of them being top 5s. So now Michael Annett, he does come in with some experience at Martinsville, but it's been in the Cup Series, and honestly, it was just with an underfunded race car, and with Annett. It was his last race here was in 2016. So, I just see Jeb Burton. He's racing part-time for JR Motorsports here in the state car this year. It's not obviously going for any playoff points, obviously, but I think he's just going to get out there and just try to win a race, to be honest. And I just think this is just one of those. I don't like to say it, but kind of sit back and get your money, So, in my opinion, so I like Jeff Burton over Michael Annett. So,
all right, Jeff Burton is the first play, minus 115 against Mike Arnett. All right, as we now move into the race on Sunday, it's the last shot here for these for the playoff. We're going to go down to Final Four here at Martinsville.
Yeah, we're cutting down from 8 to the championship 4 here at Martinsville on Sunday. Of course, Joey Logano just punched his ticket back to Kansas 2 weeks ago, and after that long race at Texas, Kyle Busch didn't have anything in the mix. But hey, there's 3 spots still left open, and one guy I was looking at here specifically for my pick is Chase Elliott. Chase is 5th in points right now. He's 25 points below the cut line. He's run pretty well here at Martinsville until he gets wrecked or until something happens. So he's had a pretty fast car here over the last couple of 2-3 years. So, but looking at it, he's got 3 top 5s over the last 7 races here in Martinsville. So, I definitely like Chase to top 5 at plus 120 on Sunday. He's going to have to basically win or be close to, or be in the top 3 probably to be able to make it over to Phoenix of the championship 4 next weekend. So to give me Chase at top 5 at plus 120.
All right, we have Jeff Jeter here with Chase Elliott, top 5, finished top 5 here at Martinsville in the Cup Series race at plus 120. Other favorites here, Jeff, we're seeing here Ryan Blaney is someone who's had success over the track.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney's absolutely run well here, and even ran well back here after the break with the COVID and everything, and in the spring or kind of into the summer. So, definitely got my head looking towards Ryan Blaney. Could be one to win a race, and he's got to go out there and kind of prove he still has it. So, yeah, I could definitely see him, taking home the chicken flag on Sunday.
Absolutely. All right, wait. So we got your plays here from Jeff Jeter. Of course, you want to check out the NASCAR coverage over at Pig Dogs Premium as we hit the weekend. I know you have some football for everyone at Pig Dogs Premium, but what else? NASCAR as well. Why don't you let everybody know what you got going?
Yeah, I've got specifically with football. Still got my Friday night 3-pack up for tonight. I'll be having my college football picks up here pretty soon as well for tomorrow, and also I've got the biggest, probably the most value you're going to get is going to be my chase for the playoff package with NASCAR. It's $79.99 over on the Pig Dogs website. It's going to be all my NASCAR plays from now all the way through the end of this, through the end of the championship 4 weekend next week at Phoenix. And I've also got a 3-day pass if you want to just test it out. So, and I'll have my Xfinity Premium up later this evening, and my Cup Series picks up over the weekend as well. So.
All right, guys, check out Jeff Jeter over at Pig Dogs Premium. Pick up his weekend plays up there, NASCAR and football. If you want to go for a long-term pass to get a 7-day or a 30-day all-sports pass, get all of Jeff's plays over there at Pig Dogs Premium. Of course, he does cover football, NFL, college football, of course, NASCAR. He'll take you into the race in Phoenix as they close out the NASCAR season here in 2020. So you want to check him out there over at Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Jeff, as always, great having you on the show. And it's always great having you. We're looking forward to next week when we talk Phoenix and we get into that Final Four.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's and this weekend at Martinsville is going to be absolutely crazy just to see how everything's going to work out to get into that to making the cut this week. So,
all right, Jeff. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Jeff Jeter here on the drive-through as we're on the show was Jeff Jeter, and he's here every Friday with us. But we had him Thursday as well because I think Mitch is going to have a big Saturday and Sunday football show. So we got him here for us for 2 days. And I was going to ask you this, Chris. What things don't you watch on cover? Are you into NASCAR?
I haven't been much into NASCAR. I was a little bit into it during the COVID stoppage, and when we started to have Jeff on the show regularly. And I think, to tell you the truth, that watch. I'm sorry, there are very few that I don't watch. I think most namely golf. As you know, I know golf is a beloved sport by a lot of people watching it, but it's just hard for me to sort of keep an eye on. And yeah, that's about it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think I would say probably golf and NASCAR are the two that I'm not the most familiar with in terms of sitting down and watching. But
yeah, with the streaming service, I enjoy NASCAR because again, I can watch the replays, and it's and one thing I was talking to Jeff about is I like the volume up, because you get so much information from the announce team, more than any other sport that I watch. So it definitely makes it intriguing to watch, especially with the sound on and knowing what's happening with the teams and the strategies. I'm a big strategy guy, and I like to get my head into and wrap my head around the strategies in these races. All right, continue here on the drive-through. So we've got still picks coming up, but we're going to go into our soccer segment and welcome our buddy Goran Kucar to the show. Goran, how are you doing today? Are you feeling well, trying to keep up with all this action, all this Europa League action, Champions League action? I hope you're eating right. Hope you're getting some exercise. Hope you're getting your sleep.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm good. I'm not really getting any sleep, and I'm not eating right, just watching a lot of soccer every day.
Oh, yeah. It's just every day, soccer. I mean, this Europa League is amazing how many games there are out there, upsets and whatnot. And, of course, you can follow Goran over at Sports Chat Place. He has a lot of written content up there. He's your source for everything that is European soccer. Of course, he'll cover the World Cup qualifiers. But we'll start it off here. Goran, what did you take from the action last week in the Premier League?
Well, as we saw, Everton lost to Southampton on the road, and there's no more undefeated teams in the EPL anymore. It was a good game, and I was kind of disappointed by Everton. They haven't created a lot of good chances. They haven't been themselves last week.
All right, Chris, Man U, a tie with Chelsea, and of course it was Leicester getting past the Arsenal 1-0. What were your takes from last week's action in the Premier League?
First of all, I want you to mute Goran for talking badly about my Everton team, but that's okay. No, you know what? He speaks the truth. We came out flat against Southampton, and Well, we had to lose at some point, but no, definitely. I definitely thought that there was going to be a lot more scoring in that Chelsea United game, but it just goes to show you, they took two defensive approaches. Neither side really wanted to give an inch, and we ended up with a scoreless draw. And now you've got Liverpool hot on Everton's trails at the top of the table, and they're going to be in action tomorrow, and this is going to be interesting to see if Everton can leave the weekend holding on to that top spot, or if the descent down the table starts this weekend. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, the game, we got a couple play here from Goran. We're going to get started here with the contest between Liverpool and West Ham in this one for Saturday. What do you got?
Yeah, if you look at Liverpool, they're playing well. They have 3 wins in their last 3 games. They've been playing well in the Champions League, although they played a weak team from Denmark, but they still won. The biggest problem for Liverpool at the moment is their defense. They have a lot of injuries, and the season is over for Van Dijk, who's their best defender and probably the best defender in the world at the moment. Fernandinho is still questionable. He's kind of their backup on that position, so I'm not sure how their defense is going to look, but they have plenty of offense, and they can outscore pretty much anyone out there.
All right. And,
on the other side, we have West Ham, team that has been playing well this season. They have scored at least 1 goal in their last 8 games, and their best soccer is happening pretty much against the best teams in the EPL. So I would take both teams to score an over 2.5 for minus 125 in that game.
All right, so they both got to come in. Both got to come in. Liverpool and West Ham both have to score a goal or more, and the total has to go over 2.5. So that is the bet, and you'll get minus 125. That's from Goran, our soccer guy here on the drive-through. Chris, how do you see this one, Liverpool and West Ham?
Well, here's the problem for Liverpool is that, being champions, you're playing the Champions League like we talked about, Tony, and Goran mentioned the laundry list of injuries for the Reds, and having 2 of your top defenders out with a jam-packed fixture schedule, it's not going to be easy for Jurgen Klopp. But I definitely think that Liverpool, even with the injuries, are still the more quality side here. They've won 3 straight games coming into this one. I do think, though, that maybe the amount of gameplay in the last couple of weeks is going to take its toll, and we're going to see Liverpool have a couple of mental lapses here, and I think West Ham's going to make them pay at least once for it. So I'm with Goran on the both teams to score. I have both teams to score with Liverpool winning this one, because I see it being 2-1 Liverpool, and I've got that at plus 160. But definitely, I also see the both teams to score and over 2.5 as a viable option as well.
All right, look at that. More plays from you here on the drive-through on this Liverpool and West Ham game. Before we get into a game on Sunday to look at, Chris, was there anything on the Saturday card that interests you?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it right now. I definitely am looking at this game between Sheffield United and Manchester City. I want to hope that Sheffield's going to show up after having such a strong performance in their debut season last year in the Premier League after such a long hiatus in the lower divisions. But I still think City win that game minus 1.5. I think they win it 2-0. And I'm also going to take Chelsea, I think, minus 1.5 against Burnley. I just think Chelsea, again, here just a better team. And I definitely think that, at Turf Moor, Burnley's been decent, but it's just got so much talent in that lineup. So I'm leaning towards Chelsea as well now.
All right, Goran, how about you? Anything you're looking at European-wise for Saturday? Anything else?
Yeah, I was taking a look at Barcelona and Alaves in La Liga. That's a late game, 4 p.m. start. Barcelona is coming out of a nice win in the Champions League to Juventus. They bounced back after their loss to Real Madrid, and even though they are on the road, they are playing better soccer. Messi is getting back to his old self, and he's finally starting to play and assist and even scoring goals. And I would take Barcelona and over in that game.
All right, let's move into the Sunday action. This is our feature game here on the show. It's Man United and Arsenal for Sunday. We'll go ahead and start with you, Goran.
Well, here's my problem with Manchester United. They're playing fantastic soccer in the Champions League. They have 2 wins. They are at the top of the table there. They just demolished Leipzig 5-0 at home. Defense looked well. Midfield was strong, confident. And then Marcus Rashford came in the second half, and he scored a hat trick. So I gotta be honest. They are still without a win at home in the EPL this season. But on the other side, you have Arsenal, who also won their game in the Europe this week, but they were playing against Dundalk, who are just a weak Irish team, and I'm not too confident in Arsenal in this game, and I would look to Man U getting their first win at home this season.
Ooh, taking a shot at the Irish. All right, Chris, what do you see here?
You don't take a shot at the Irish, especially when they've got a Guinness in their hand. But no, I'm with Goran 100% on this one. United, after that win against Leipzig, and I won't lie to you, I watched that game in its entirety, and you can see, United the pendulum start to swing in that direction. You're starting to see how United are starting to sort of get back to looking like the Manchester United that's been one of the best teams in England for the last, few decades. And, it started against PSG with that 4-0 win in the first day of the Champions League. Then it carried over against Chelsea, and then they demolished Leipzig. And I just think Arsenal is just simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a lot going on in this Arsenal lineup, and Mikel Arteta saying that, Mesut Ozil, who's still a world-class German, midfielder, he's not putting him in the lineup. And, I struggle to think that Arsenal has that much quality in their lineup, even outside of Aubameyang up front and Xhaka in the midfield, that they've got that much that you can keep Mesut Ozil out of the lineup. I'm not seeing it. So I'm taking Manchester United to win, and I think we go Manchester United to win in over 2.5 and sort of stretch that out, get a little bit of extra plus money out of it.
All right, that's Chris Ruffolo. I'll ask Goran, any other games out there you're looking for Sunday?
Haven't taken a look at anything for Sunday yet, but just by looking at, I see Tottenham here against Brighton at home, and after their disappointing loss in the Europa League, I would take Tottenham here because they started to play well in the EPL, and Harry Kane and Son are the best duo in the EPL right now. Son is the top goal scorer in the EPL with 8 goals. Kane has 8 assists and 6 goals, so I would take Tottenham there, and I think it's minus 35 or so.
Okay. I'll ask Chris, Sunday, anything on catch your attention? Any other game Sunday?
Everton to beat Newcastle. No, I'm looking at Tottenham as well, and I am actually looking at Everton, maybe minus the goal against Newcastle. I just think they're the better team, even with Rodriguez not in the lineup and Richarlison still serving that red card. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been a revelation for Everton this year, and for all the points that Goran just made, I like Tottenham against Brighton. I think a ticked off Jose Mourinho is not the kind of manager I'd want to see if you're on the other side for Brighton. I think Tottenham knows the mistake that they just made in the Europa League, underestimating Antwerp, and I think Tottenham comes out firing here behind Son and Kane, and I think Spurs are going to be a winner as well on Sunday.
All right, that's Chris Ruffolo. I'm joined here with Goran Kucar with his EPL and European soccer for this week. Why don't you let everybody know what's going on over at Big Dogs Premium, Goran? Big weekend of soccer in a lot of the European leagues out there. English Premier, we've got La Liga, Serie A. What do you got going on?
Yeah, pretty much every league is playing this weekend, and I do have a one-time pack for tomorrow with 7 picks already up, and there's a 3-day pack for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well. And of course, there's a season-long package for only $209 that you get every single pick, even the national teams and the World Cup qualifications, Nations League, and everything like that until the end of the May.
All right, guys, check him out. Goran Kucar over at Pig Dogs Premium. Pick up one of his long-term packages. He talked about the season pass up there. Get in with the winner. You'll follow all his coverage over there at Sports Chat Place as well as Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Goran, as always, great having you on the show. Have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the soccer. Bring some winners home, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. You too. See ya.
All right, everybody. Goran Kucar here on the drive-thru. All right, guys. Still got a lot. I got a pick coming for you here, and we'll get it to you here in just a second. As we will recap all the plays at the end of the show, so stay tuned after I give you my free pick here for this weekend. We're going to go to NFL. We're going to take the Cowboys and Eagles to go under a total of 43 points. Even with the second-string quarterback in Andy Dalton, the Cowboys' offense could only average 6.5 points a game. Now they're down to a rookie third-string with a seventh-round pick. I think the run game will be emphasized a little bit more, a conservative game plan, especially against a Philadelphia team that can sack the quarterback. Now, Eagles have had success running the football in their past 3 games. That could be in a position of holding a lead here, or even a multi-possession lead in the third and fourth quarter. I could look for the Eagles going to their run game to drain clock and avoid the turnover. And I think that's all that can hurt the Eagles in this game is turning the football over. They need to play a clean game. And I think you're going to see a low-scoring game here with the Eagles and the Cowboys going under a total of 43. Chris, how do you see this matchup?
Tony, I don't have enough Tylenol in my desk to prevent the headache of this game. I was saying this in our videos. I kind of wish that they would have flexed the Seattle San Francisco game or even the Pittsburgh Baltimore game into this spot, but nobody listened, and we're stuck with this one Sunday night. I'm a little bit hesitant with the under just because of how bad the Dallas defense has been, and Philly still gives up 28 points a game themselves. But I for now I'm going to lean the same way as you. I'm going to lean towards the under just because I don't know if Dallas is going to be able to score, just because they only mustered up 3 points without Dak Prescott. 3 points and 10 against Arizona as well when Dalton in his first game under center. I don't know what Ben DiNucci's going to do that Andy Dalton couldn't. And my only concern is that besides that is that Dallas has the worst rush defense in the league, going up against a Philadelphia running game that's still middle of the road. So Philadelphia may break off a few chunk plays, and they may be able to put some big scoring runs on the board. But again, I also think that you're right. They're going to run all over this Dallas team. I think Dallas is going to be one-dimensional with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't see DiNucci passing the ball that much, so I could see a lot of clock being chewed up and an under coming in here as well.
All right, my play here is under total in this Cowboys and Eagles game for Sunday. All right, let's go ahead and recap the picks from the show. All right, we started here with Joe Duffy, and he was on the 49ers +3 against the Seahawks. Then Chris Ruffolo says take the Bengals +5.5 points against the Titans. Rodd Z, take Memphis +6.5 against Cincinnati Bearcats. And Brian on tonight's college football, Minnesota Golden Gophers -18.5 against Maryland. Jeff says take Jeff Burton -115 odds against Michael Annette. That's the Saturday Xfinity Series race. Then the Cup Series race, take Chase Elliott top 5 at +120 odds. And of course, Goran, we had Goran. He said Liverpool, West Ham, both teams to score and go over the total. And of course, both of those have to come in. If they both come in, you get +125 odds return. And yours truly here, actually it'll be -125 odds. Yours truly was on the Eagles and Cowboys to go under total of 43 points. And of course, we have Goran here. I'm going to ask Goran a different question because he doesn't cover American sports. But I will ask Chris, other than your play, which one do you like the best?
I can answer this question today, believe it or not.
Oh, good.
I like Brian's Minnesota -18.5. I think they absolutely steamroll Maryland here.
I like actually Jeff's Winston Cup Series with the Chase Elliott top 5 at +120. I like that play. That one got my attention there. I liked his breakdown on it, so that's the one I'm betting on. And of course, Goran, we have you on because I wanted you to let everybody know about the coverage you have over at Sports Chat Place, because you do a lot of the work up there on that site covering European soccer.
Yeah, as usual, all the big games throughout the Europe are up there as free picks, and a lot more will be coming as well for the Champions League next week, and the Europa League next week as well. And there are a few games on Monday, and then again, all around next weekend as well.
The schedule is jam-packed. When you go and look at the schedule, I mean, it's jam-packed from European, and of course, we've got you covered here. There's even EPL on Monday, a couple games there. So be sure to check out Sports Chat Place. You'll find Goran's work there. He does good work there at the site for many years on the site. So be sure to check him out. All right, guys. great show for this week. And let's go ahead and bring the crew in. Give a wave goodbye to everybody. We got Jeff Jeter. We got Sean Cameron, my man. There we go. He's got the Liverpool going. And, of course, right below me, we've got the birdcage play from Rodd Zawacky. Okay, his soccer moneyline Saturday play plus 385 odds there. Augsburg, Liverpool, Bologna here at plus 360. You like that play, Goran?
I'm not sure that I like Bologna here.
All right.
Everything else seems good.
Everything else seems good. All right, guys. For all the crew up here.
Liverpool's Bologna.
Oh, Liverpool. Wow.
Liverpool's Bologna. Liverpool's Bologna. Get him out of here.
Oh, boy. All right, guys. We're going to end the show today. Thanks for everyone for joining us. We'll talk to you guys. We're back Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time with the drive-thru. Don't forget the morning show. You start the mornings with Mitch, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time with the morning crew. This weekend, a lot of football coverage. We'll talk